Christmas is one of the most beautiful times of the year. Everyone is in high spirits, and depending on where you live, there might be snow, and oftentimes cities or homes will be beautifully decorated. There will be holiday activities. We tend to spend a little more intentional quality time with our loved ones, and it's just a very lovely and heartwarming time of the year. Growing up, Christmas was always my favorite time of the year. It was a season full of laughter and fun and presents. What child does not like presents and delicious food? I think my favorite was always the Christmas movies. That was something I really enjoyed. But as I became older and became an adult, Christmas is less fun and joyful for me and has turned towards being a little more stressful. And I had asked for you guys on Instagram if that was the case for you as well. Do you feel that Christmas is a little less joyful and maybe a little more stressful now that you're an adult? And the majority of you replied, yes, it is more stressful for you as an adult and not as much enjoyable anymore. I had reflected on this thought and this idea for a while the past few days, and I realized that as a child I went into the holiday season and the Christmas festivities with so much more of a mindset of just showing up and just being there. I didn't have too high of expectations, and even if I did, I was quite flexible with those expectations. I just accepted things and took things as they came, and I was, as I said, really in the moment and enjoyed the things that were presented to me, the activities, the food that was presented to me in a very welcoming way. And as an adult, I feel like I'm so much more in my head. I'm so much more working about being a people pleaser, making sure everyone feels comfortable, feels well, is having fun, and trying not to create any conflict. And I feel like I'm constantly worrying about the little stuff that shouldn't matter too much. And that is definitely something of my own fault, that I'm so much in my head and I'm so anxious. And now that I've come to realize this, I can really do something about it. Realization or awareness is the first step to doing something or changing something. So this year I really want to be so much more intentional about being present and just welcoming things, occasions as they come. So not having high expectations of it's going to be super cheery around the dinner table, we're going to play fun games and things like that. But if we don't end up playing games, that's fine too. If there ends up being a conflict at the dinner table, that's fine too. To just embrace the day as it is and not to stress about the little things. To try to put myself back into little me and have that kind of childish, more innocent and embracing and welcoming and more understanding way of things. I think as a child you're not responsible for things, so you don't stress about them so much, but when you're adult you're responsible for the food, for the atmosphere, for the conversation, and at least for me, I tend to stress so much more because of that. I don't know what you guys' reason is for being a little more stressed around the holiday season compared to as a child, but reflecting upon it really helped me identify what it is and realize that is something that I have control over. I can be more intentional about how I show up in a sense. So I really wanted to encourage you to also maybe sit down and reflect on why are the holidays a little less fun and joyful in a sense, and is it something that you can change? Is it something, if it's something that you cannot change, maybe you can take the time to journal about it and just let it go, since you cannot control or change it. As an adult, I feel like I have lost my childhood naivety, and that definitely has good and bad sides to it. When I was a child, Christmas was so much more just about presents and delicious food and movies and games, and I didn't see a lot of things that I'm seeing right now. The older I get and the more I educate myself on specific things, the more I also see the faults and the cracks of certain things. Especially this year, I have realized that I notice so much more the little things that I don't really enjoy about Christmas. One of the big things is this whole thing around consumerism. Christmas has, or at least the Christmas tradition has really become a lot about consumerism, about buying a lot of presents and expensive presents, and people are expecting presents. It's not that I'm against gifts in general, it's just that I feel like a lot of times we give poorly, in the sense that often it's gifts that are not very thoughtful or unnecessary. Most of the gifts that we give actually end up in the landfill. People don't 100% enjoy their gifts most of the time. People a lot of times just stuff their gifts into the closet and forget about it because it's not useful to them, or they just simply don't like it. Most of the times, at least for me, I also have a feeling of there isn't anything that I would want, there isn't anything that I would need, and even if there was something, I'd maybe like to pick it out myself. But still we feel this pressure of having to give someone a gift in order to show that we care. Also, things like secondhand gifts or homemade gifts are often valued lower as new and expensive gifts, which is really a shame. Starting with myself, this year I only bought 4, in a sense, new gifts to give to people, and everything else is donations or self-made or no gift at all, or second-hand gifts. Even though it might seem frustrating, we can't really suddenly change this whole material culture around the holidays, but what we can do is start with ourselves and do what we find is right. All we need to do is the best with what we've got. Something else around the holidays that I have found this year that really breaks my heart are Christmas trees. In Germany here, we tend to have real trees, and on the one hand that's really great because then we would cut down on the amount of plastic that we would otherwise have with plastic trees. But on the other hand, there are a lot of trees that are being cut down just for the sake of decorations and then being tossed out a few weeks later. This year was the first time I went out and purchased a Christmas tree with my dad, and I was a little sad, to be honest, to see all those cut down trees being sold for just purely for decorations. And sadly, I could not convince my family to be more sustainable in that sense. And I totally understand that Christmas trees are something that is very emotionally valuable to a lot of people. It is part of their Christmas tradition, a part of their childhood. They have a lot of positive emotions associated with a decorated Christmas tree. But what I think is a really great idea to be more sustainable, for one, maybe check out where your tree is coming from. Is it sustainably grown, sustainably harvested in a sense? But also an idea that I absolutely love is just to buy a potted Christmas tree, and that way you can reuse that every single year, and yeah, no trees are kind of cut down and wasted, and we don't need to buy a plastic tree. And that is definitely something that I really want to do once I kind of start celebrating my own Christmas by myself with my own family, is to either not have a Christmas tree at all or to have a potted Christmas tree. Lastly, the thing that made me sad this Christmas season was thinking about all the meat-heavy Christmas dinners. From an environmental standpoint, meat is something that is very environmentally unfriendly, and I know that Christmas is something special that people want to celebrate, and usually to do that with meat or a Christmas roast, things like that, and that's really nice. But oftentimes we don't associate meat with being harmful to the environment. When we think of environmentally harmful things, we straight away think of plastic, but meat does have a big impact on the environment. It needs a lot of water, it needs land resources, and it produces a lot of CO2 as well. And just thinking about the Christmas lamb my mom made last year made me really sad, thinking of cute little baby lambs that were slaughtered. Something that I think I really want to encourage people is to maybe research about where their meat is coming from, how are the animals being held, what are they being fed, things like that. I think education is a really big part of like a starting point. Now, I'm not saying we all need to go full on vegan this Christmas, but maybe we can think about cutting down a little bit of meat, or to maybe go vegetarian, maybe even vegan. If not having good recipe ideas is the problem, which I totally get, I have amazing vegan websites with recipes that I can recommend from One Minimalist Baker and also Avant-Garde Vegan. They have amazing recipes that all are so delicious and fitting for the holidays. Maybe you can even suggest, if you're celebrating with your family, that you want to take over the Christmas dinner this year and provide a little more of vegetarian or vegan options, or go fully vegan. Last year I made a vegan shepherd's pie. My family all loved it, even though they aren't vegan, and I was happy to be able to share that food and that recipe with them. Sometimes I need a little reminder. I see a lot of the cracks and the faults in things like Christmas, but sometimes you need to remember not to get too caught up in those faults, in a sense. I mean, Christmas is still a beautiful season. It's a beautiful time that I do really enjoy, and I don't need to beat myself up about all the bad, I guess, or the negative sides of things. All I can do is my best. I can do my best with what I have and share that. And I think if we're all doing our best, doing our part with what we have, then I think that's all that we can do, and we can be satisfied and content with that. If you're wondering how to make Christmas a little more sustainable to the environment, then hopefully these tips were really helpful. Let me know if you have any other tips surrounding sustainability around Christmas. Are these thoughts that you have or have had, or am I the only one that has these kind of thoughts? I hope you're all well. I'm wishing you a lovely holiday season, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.